Hello all, welcome to Paritranaya. In this class, we shall discuss about group of 20, that is G20 grouping. So in the recent times, we have seen G20 repeatedly appearing in the news, especially in the context of G20 summit being hosted by India. So from that context also, it is important. And also if you look at the trend of the previous year questions in a UPSC prelims, so it becomes very much obvious that G20 grouping is a very important grouping from exam point of view as well. So in this context, G20, first we need to understand what is this G20 and why it was formed. So it's a premier forum for international economic cooperation. So we already know the meaning of premier. Premier indicates supreme. So one of the supreme organization which is involved in what setting the standards for international economic cooperation. So what do we understand by economic cooperation or international economic cooperation? So let us try to connect with the help of an example. Now let us consider example of India and USA. So we shall take an example wherein economic cooperation is required between India and USA. So let us consider an example of Indian company Infosys and an USA American company Amazon. Now imagine a condition wherein Infosys has few of its offices in USA. Similarly, Amazon has few of its offices in India. Now the question is, generally there will be a corporation tax for a company. Okay, corporate tax, not corporation tax, corporate tax. So for Infosys, India will impose that tax. Similarly for Amazon, USA will impose its own tax. Now the question is, can India impose tax on offices of Amazon in India? Similarly, can USA impose taxes on offices that belong to Infosys in USA? So if at all they impose tax, then there will be a problem. Our tax may be imposed in both India as well as in USA. Similarly for Amazon, it may be imposed in both USA as well as in India. So in order to avoid this problem, we require a kind of cooperation. So a cooperation between India and USA. Similarly, such kind of cooperation will be required between various global countries. So in order to achieve such kind of economic cooperation, we have a premier grouping whom we call it as G20. Okay, a very important point. So it plays an important role in shaping and strengthening global architecture and governance on all major international economic issues. So important international economic issues can be, as I mentioned, it may be with respect to taxes, or it may be with respect to employment and many more. There are many economic issues. So in all the economic issues, if at all we want to strengthen some kind of policies, that is global architecture, or we want to improve governance, then that can happen with the influence of G20, or G20 will play a very important role in shaping these policies as well as making the governance happen properly. So G20 plays a very important role. Next, the next information is also equally important. So when it was founded in 1999. So UPSC may focus on these aspects as well. So when it was founded in 1999. So why it was founded? It was founded as a response for Asian financial crisis. So Asian financial crisis. Again, this is a separate topic, and now it is not that much important also from exam point of view. So as a response to this Asian financial crisis, there was some financial crisis in Asia. It may be like balance of payment crisis or inflation, such kind of crisis. So in order to address this crisis, G20 was formed. So it was formed as a forum for the finance ministers and the central bank governors to discuss global economic and financial issues, a very important point. So now in the recent G20 summit, we witnessed that the major role which was played was by Prime Minister of India. Similarly, from other countries, the countries which are members of G20, the major role was played by either by the prime ministers or presidents of the respective countries. So there was lesser role of finance ministers and central bank governors. But when G20 was formed in 1999, initially there was no representation of prime minister. Rather, from every country, there was a representation of finance minister and central bank governors. For example, let us assume a G20 meeting is being held in USA. So who will go to attend this meeting in 1999? It is India's finance minister and India's central bank governor, that is RBI governor. Similarly, from Russia, Russia's finance minister will go, Russia's central bank governor will go. Similarly, from China, China's finance minister will go, China's central bank governor will go. At that time, there was no representation of prime minister or president. So the major role was played by finance minister and what? Central bank governors. Initially, when G20 started. So they discussed global economic and financial issues. But if you look at the present scenario, so who is playing a major role in G20 meetings and all? It is either prime ministers or president. So in some countries, the position of prime minister is powerful, whereas in few other countries, the position of president is powerful. So whosoever is powerful, whether president or prime minister, so they are being represented in recent summits. So this happened, this upgradation, it was upgraded to the level of heads of state or heads of government. Okay, in the wake of global financial crisis of 2007. So in 2000, from 2007 onwards, what happened? It was upgraded. So rather than finance minister and central bank governors, now G20, it was being represented either by prime minister, if the prime minister is the most powerful position in that particular country, or president, if president is the most powerful person in that particular country. So here, from 2007 onwards, we are seeing an upgradation. Previously, representation was from finance ministers and central bank governors, whereas now the representation is from either prime minister of that country or president of that country. So again, this is also a very important point. UPSC may focus. So when did this upgradation happen? This upgradation happened in 2007 as a response to global financial crisis. Okay, global economic and financial crisis. Now, in order to confuse us, UPSC may frame an option like this. So G20 was formed in 1999 as a response to global economic and financial crisis. If they make such kind of statement, that will be false, because it was formed in 1999 as a response to Asian financial crisis and not global economic crisis. Okay, a very important point to note. Next, similarly, in 2009, it was designated as a premier forum for international economic cooperation. So an official designation as a premier forum for international economic cooperation. So it got this designation in 2009. Even this point is important. So in order to confuse us, they may say that in 1999 itself, it was designated as premier forum for international cooperation. No. Next, its summit is held annually under the leadership of a rotating presidency. Very important. So summit means where all the members of G20 or the leaders of G20, prime ministers or president, they will come together and they will have a meeting. So that meeting we call it as G20 summit. And recently the summit was held in India. So every year this summit is held in different places. So in whichever country the summit will be held, so that country will be occupying the presidency, or that country will be called as president for that particular year. So this year, who was the president of G20? India was the president of G20. Okay. So India had the G20 presidency for 2023. So next year it will go to someone else. So previously it was held by someone else. So in 2023 it is India. In 2022 it was Indonesia. And in 2024 it will be Brazil. So these three countries together we call it as Troika: India, Indonesia, and Brazil. So the summit is held annually under the leadership of rotating presidency. So presidency will rotate. So next year it will go to Brazil. After that it will go to some other country and all. So it is rotating every year. This is also very important. So in order to confuse us, they may say they may make a statement that so G20 presidency rotation happens after 2 years. No, it does not happen after 2 years. It happens after a year. And also, if when you are exploring for more information, you will get a table like Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D. So from Group A country, a country will become what president. Next from Group B, next from Group C, and so on. So that much depth of information is not important from exam point of view. We need to understand the demand of the examination, so need not go into the deeper aspects. So this information would be sufficient. Presidency, it rotates every year. Okay, every year. Next, initially in 1999, when G20 was formed, it focused broadly on economic issues. But later on, its focus also expanded to include areas like trade, sustainable development, health, agriculture, energy, environment, climate change, and anti-corruption. So here few of the topics, if you are not aware, for example, sustainable development. So you can watch our video pertaining to sustainable development under the environment topic. Okay? So you'll get in clarity. So now, apart from economic issues, it also started focusing on other issues as well. So from again exam point of view, we need to know that whenever they make a statement like G20 focuses only on economic issues, then that will be wrong. Apart from the economic issues, it also focuses on other issues. Okay, we need not memorize this list, but at the superficial level, we should be aware that apart from the economic issues, it also focuses on other issues as well. So again, an important point. Next, G20 does not have a charter. So what does it mean? The charter is similar to a list of instructions or a book consisting of list of instructions. So these instructions will be to guide a particular organization. For example, to guide India, we have constitution. Similar to guide a company. So in company, who should be MD, who should be chairman. So all these instructions, they will be present in a book. So those are called as charters. G20, it specifically does not have a charter, a very important point. So in order to confuse us, they may ask us a question like, so whether G20 has a charter? No, it does not have a charter. Similarly, G20 does not have a secretariat. So what is secretariat? It is similar to headquarters or capital. Now the capital of India is Delhi, capital of Karnataka is Bengaluru. Similarly, if you look at any of the major organizations, generally they have headquarters, but there is no headquarter or secretariat kind of thing for G20. So then from where do they work? We shall look into that later on. The presidency aided by the countries holding the presidency before and after it is responsible for setting the agenda of each year's summit. So what does it mean? So in 2023, the summit was hosted by India. India was the president. So in this particular summit, what discussion should happen, on what issues we should focus. So all this agenda is set by the presidency country. It means India will set the agenda. For 2023, India will set the agenda because India is the president of G20. So to help India, two more countries will come. So the country which hosted in 2022 G20 summit and the country which will be hosting the G20 summit in 2024, that is Indonesia and Brazil. Okay. So the main agenda will be set by India, but India will be assisted by Indonesia and Brazil. Okay. Again, this information is also very important. They may frame a question. So who will set the agenda for a year's summit? All of them together? No, it will be set by president of G20 in that particular year, and it will be assisted by the other two countries. Okay. Next, G20 process is led by Sherpas of member countries who are personal emissaries of the leaders. Now we know that in G20 summit, so prime ministers and president of various countries will be represented. Okay, so let us assume prime minister of India, next president of USA, next president of Russia. So for day-to-day discussions, that what kind of issues we should focus on, so how the event should be hosted, for all these discussions, prime minister and president cannot go. So rather than prime minister, a representative of prime minister will go. Similarly, a representative of this president will go, and president of Russia's representative will also go to G20. So those representatives are called as Sherpas. So that much information would be sufficient with respect to Sherpas. Next, G20 work is divided into two tracks. So in order to ease the working or to make working easier, so they have divided the work into two forms. One is called as finance track and the other one is called as Sherpa track. So this much would be information would be sufficient. We will not go into the detailed aspects like what is finance track and what is Sherpa track. Okay, it is easy. We'll get sufficient content, but also at the same time we need to know about the demand of the examination, because we don't want to become get mastery over the international affairs. We want to become jack of all the subjects, including international affairs and bodies. So here we'll not go into the deeper aspects. At the superficial level, we shall understand that G20 work is divided into two tracks. One is finance track and another one is Sherpa track. Next, member countries. Again, a very important information from exam point of view. If you look at the trend of the prelims especially, so in the recent past, they have asked question like, who among the following are the members of so and so organization? So in that context, so this information becomes important. So in order to retain the member countries information easily, I have divided the countries continent wise: Asia, region wise, Middle East. Okay. Similarly, Europe, North America, South America, Africa, and Australia. So let us try to locate these countries map wise. Okay, should try to do this exercise on a map. So first we shall start with Asia. So if you look at Asia, okay, so Asia. So here we have India, Russia, China, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea. So in Asia, India is a member of G20. Similarly, Russia is a member of G20. Next, not Russia, there is a slide. So here, India, next Russia, China, next here we have Indonesia. Indonesia, next Japan, and South Korea. So these 6 countries of Asia, they are members of G20. Next we shall move to Middle East. So we have already seen that what is Middle East. So generally this area, it constitutes Middle East. So from the Middle East, Saudi Arabia is a member of G20. Similarly, Turkey is a member of G20. Saudi Arabia, Turkey. Next we shall move to European Union. For Europe, we shall go to Europe. So we have already seen what is European Union. So European Union is a member of G20. France is a member, Germany is a member, Italy is a member, UK is a member. So we already seen which all countries are members of G20. Sorry, European Union. So European Union is part of G20. Apart from European Union as a union, France is also a member. France. Next we have Germany, Italy, and UK. 4 countries plus 1 grouping from Europe, they are represented in G20. When it comes to North America, so here we have USA, Canada, as well as Mexico. So USA is a member, Canada is a member of G20. Similarly, Mexico is a member of G20. Next, coming to Latin America. Brazil and Argentina. So Latin America is also called as South America. So Brazil is a member. Similarly, Argentina is a member of G20. Next, coming to Africa. Now recently, African Union was also became member of G20. So this information is important. So whole of this Africa, okay, it is called as African Union. So African Union, it became a member of G20, and already South Africa is a member of G20. So South Africa is a member of G20. Next, finally, Australia. So Australia is also a member of G20. So this information is very important from exam point of view. So if at all they ask a question to identify the members which are part of G20, we should be able to identify the members, and that identification becomes easier if we are able to retain and recall the information based on map. So important. Next important information from exam point of view are summits. So when it comes to summits is meetings of the heads of states or heads of government, as we have seen. Now there are close to 18 summits that have taken place. Whether all the summits are important? No. From exam point of view, always curiosity. So what is that curiosity? Where did the first summit happen and when did it happen? So the first summit took place in Washington DC, that is USA, and in the year 2008. This information is important. Apart from the first summit, we will not be interested in second, third, fourth, and so on. We will be interested in the summits that have taken place in India. So here we get to know that the only summit which has taken place in India is 18th summit, and it was held in 2023. So here we'll skip second summit to 17th summit, they are not important. So 18th summit was held in 2023 in India. So Troika countries in this context. So which country hosted the G20 summit before? That is in 2022. It was Indonesia. And next, which country will be hosting? Brazil. So as we discussed. So even this information is important. Next, generally every year to G20 summit, apart from the members of G20, some external entities are also invited, even though they are not members, but they are invited. So who are such regular invitees? So some international organizations, United Nations, International Monetary Fund, World Bank, World Health Organization, World Trade Organization, International Labour Organization, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Similarly, chairs of regional organizations like African Union, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. So these international organizations and chairs of the regional organizations, so regularly they are invitees of G20 summit. So this information is also very important. So in UPSC they may frame a statement like this. So international organization like IMF and World Bank, they attend G20 summit. If they make such kind of statement, then that is true. Okay, even though they are not members, but they attend the G20 meetings. Important. So what is speciality about the 18th summit which took place in India under India's presidency? So India as G20 president, it invited additional members apart from the other organizations which are regularly invited. India also invited International Solar Alliance. It also invited CDRI and Asian Development Bank as guests. So this is very important. So in exam they may ask, so which of the following organizations were invited? So we need to know that ISA, CDRI and ADB were invited as guests as part of the 18th summit which took place in India. Again, a very important information from exam point of view. Next, theme of India's G20 presidency. Now every year G20 when it takes place, so there will be a theme. So the other themes are not important, but as this year G20 took place in India, so the theme is very important. So the theme of this year's presidency was Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Okay, important. So what does it mean? It translates to one earth, one family and one future. So repeatedly we have seen this term appearing in the newspaper. So very important. Another very important curiosity driven, or very rarely it has appeared in the newspaper, that is, so what is this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam? So from where have we taken this word Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam? So it has been taken, or it has been greatly inspired by the work of Maha Upanishad. So it is present in Maha Upanishad. So from the exam point of view, even this is important. Because if you look at the previous year question papers, so somewhere in probably 15 or 16, they asked a question like, Satyameva Jayate, it has been borrowed from which Upanishad? It is Manduka Upanishad. So from that context, so even this term from where it has been borrowed, so even that becomes important from the exam point of view. Because G20, as it has repeatedly appeared in the newspaper, so every aspirant will be focusing on those aspects. But very few will be focusing on these aspects. So even these aspects which are not present in the regular newspaper, so even they are important from exam point of view. So Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, it has been taken from Maha Upanishad. So the contents which we have discussed here, so they will be beneficial from both what prelims as well as mains point of view. So few of the things which we have discussed here, they can be even quoted in mains as well. Okay, mains as well. Now, finally, India's G20 priorities. So what are the priority areas which India had focused during its G20 summit? So one is green development, clean finance and life. Okay, so we have made separate videos for all these things or all these topics, so you can refer our videos. Okay. Similarly, accelerated, inclusive and resilient growth. So one of its priority was also accelerated, inclusive and resilient growth. So important, accelerating progress on sustainable development goals. It was one of the India's priority. Similarly, technological transformation and digital public infrastructure. This was also one of the G20 priority areas. So multilateral institutions for the 21st century. This was also one of the priority area. Similarly, women-led development. So even these points are important from exam point of view. So in the exam, they may ask us like, which among the following is a priority area, India's priority area in G20. If they ask us, then we should be able to what? Identify. If at all we are not able to recall, at least we should be able to identify. So even this information is important from exam point of view. So this was about G20. Similarly, in the forthcoming classes, we will be discussing about the other important international organizations, international affairs and bodies important from the exam point of view. For all our further updates, subscribe to our channel and hit on the bell icon. Thank you.